Let's talk today about something we do not have a good name for, and that is female-specific problems, whatever the hell that means. That's often a grab bag physicians use when they can't figure out what's going on. And it's really frustrating that a lot of these disorders and diseases are understudied, don't have good drug treatments, and often get dismissed by the doctors who are listening to their patients. And so what I'm here to do is to talk about the ways that you might be able to use things like CBD, THC, or PEA for this vast constellation of difficulties that can occur in someone in a female identifying body. And let me start off to say that there's a lot of evidence here, more so than for a lot of other fields with cannabinoids. Not only have I heard a lot in my life as a journalist, going around reading stuff online, but in my collections that you can see either on whitewhalecreations.com, where I'll have a FAQ similar to this, or on the site I created, cvresearch.info, under hormones, there is a ton of data for things like endometriosis, chronic pelvic pain, polycystic ovary syndrome, or hormonal dysregulation in general. The thing to know is that the endocannabinoid system is intimately tied up with hormonal system. It alters it in all kinds of ways. Exactly how it's doing that is not that well studied. There's been a lot of evidence saying, oh, this does that and that does that, but the overall global picture is not very clear. So really what matters the most is, what do you hear humans saying about what helps them? And I've heard from so many women about CBD helping with painful periods, balancing out things around both menopause and menstruation, and more than anything else, endometriosis. I know I never say it right. But the thing to do is, if you want to try for any of these hormonal imbalances or more female-specific problems, I would do the regular routines I always tell to anyone, especially to my more aging female relatives, which is start with CBD in a full spectrum hemp extract, buy 3 bottles, and take it for 3 months. Take 10, 20, 30 milligrams a day, but don't stop taking it, because just like the neurons in your brain, your hormones do not always move quickly. It can take a month or two for these effects to start really balancing things out. So don't take it for a week or two and then say it's not working and get rid of it. With the ways that the endocannabinoid system can slowly work to improve hormonal balance, you want to try the full 3 months. And so what I would do is, on that first bottle, just experiment in the ways that work for you. And I have another video about this at the top of my White Whale Creations page. But in general, take the minimum amount for a couple days, then take 10 milligrams for another couple days, and keep increasing the dosage, looking for the sweet spot that really helps your symptoms a lot. And if it turns out that 40 milligrams a day, you're feeling pretty good, that's great. I would recommend trying 60 or 70 milligrams a day just to see if that doesn't make you feel great. But find that spot where it's helping, and taking more isn't helping anymore. I know it's expensive. We don't want to be taking more than we need. But compared to what health is, even though it might be expensive to take 100 or 200 milligrams a day, if it turns out that's a sweet spot that really restores health for you in a serious way or reduces pain, you're going to want to be taking it, and it's going to be worth the money, especially compared to what most medications cost you. So with CBD, figure out the times of day that work for you and figure out the amounts that work for you. Find that sweet spot, because once you do, you can usually keep taking that same amount. Tolerance doesn't tend to develop to the healthy aspects of CBD. So once you find that amount, just dial it in and keep taking that every day. After that, if you still think there might be more healing in it for you, absolutely try THC. And for THC, you really have 2 different ingestion methods that are the most helpful. And that is vape pens, because vape pens, you feel them right away. They're especially good for flare-ups of pain, which can be related to this kind of stuff. And the THC especially is a very good, CBD is a decent painkiller. It seems like THC is an especially good painkiller that also helps other painkillers like the opioids to work better. You constantly hear stories about people having their opioid dosage because they're taking little bits of CBD each day. And the nice part with the vape pen is you can take little sips of it all day. Just take 1 or 2 puffs every hour might be what works for you. And the nice part is you also know how psychoactive the effects will be within 2 minutes. And so if you've taken your puffs and it didn't get quite enough pain relief and you're still feeling clear enough in your head, you can take 2 more puffs. And you might be riding that line between too psychoactive and pain relief. But with the vape pen, it's very easy to do that. The other option for THC is edibles. Or any kind of oral solution, whether it be a tincture or an oil or a gummy or a brownie. The nice part about taking THC orally is it lasts much longer. Often people take one in the morning, one in the mid-afternoon. That's enough to give them all-day relief and coverage. The only thing to know about the edibles is that the THC that you're eating or smoking is delta 9 THC. That's the regular old THC. But when you eat it, it goes through the liver, gets processed by the liver into a different type of THC called delta 11 THC. Delta 11 THC is something like 5 to 7 times more strong psychoactively. That's why you hear about people having those freak out experiences much more on edibles than you do with smoking it. With smoking it, you know pretty much right away how high you're going to be getting. With edibles, remember, it can take up to 2 hours. And the usual rhythm of a really bad trip story is at the hour and a half mark, I decided this wasn't working anymore, and I ate the other half of the brownie. And just then, the first one hit me, and I realized this roller coaster is now going to go up much higher than I wanted it to go. And so that's the thing to be the most cautious about, because it is not deadly to get too high, but it can be very unpleasant. And if you are working with an older person who's very nervous about getting high, if you give them too much one time, they might never try the medicine again. And that's a real shame, because you can have a lot of relief for these kind of issues. So with THC, again, it's about finding what works for you. And it could very well be just a mix of small sips off a vape pen all day combined with half a gummy every 4 hours. But you can find out what works for you. The last molecule that is worth knowing about is PEA. And I just wrote a big article about PEA for Project CBD if you want to learn more about it. But PEA is an endocannabinoid-like molecule that's in your brain, it's in your body. It's actually incredibly widespread. It's probably in every mammalian cell. There is some PEA there. And it functions as a super inflammation reducer. And not only is it probably better at reducing inflammation than CBD, which is saying something, it's also safer than CBD, which is saying something. CBD at thousands of milligrams can start to upset your stomach. PEA at thousands of milligrams doesn't do that. It doesn't do anything. It's amazing how often you see the words no safety negatives noted in these clinical trials. And there have been a lot of clinical trials on PEA. The cool part about PEA is you can just buy it online. There's a whole bunch of retailers that have it. If you want to find a good source, just make sure they have third-party testing for every batch. That's the only way to know that it's quality. Everything else about their marketing and all that, they could be fluffing you. But the third-party testing is a way to know that what's in there is good and there's nothing else in there. With PEA, start with just 300 milligrams in the morning to see how it helps you. That's not a very high level. And again, try it for a couple days. Just take the minimum amount, see how it's balancing out. It might take a couple days to feel it, and then start increasing your dosages looking for help. There is more data on PEA and these more female-specific issues than there is for most of the things PEA has been studied for. So in general, that would be the order I would go in. That's how I recommend it to my relatives is CBD, THC, PEA. So let me know how that sounds in the comments. Feel free to reach out to me at lex@whitewhalecreations.com or join my newsletter for constant updates about this stuff. And I also do cannabinoid education sessions for people or for their caregivers. So feel free to reach out about that and let me know if you have any questions.